I'm Mabel. The silence in the car on the way home was almost palpable, like the calm after a raging storm. My daughter, Lily, was in the back seat, her head tilted against the window, a gold pocket watch cradled in her small hands. The streetlights flickered across her tear-streaked face, and the dried tracks of her earlier tears were still visible. My husband, Ryan, was driving with a death grip on the steering wheel, his knuckles white. I could see the tension in his jaw and the rapid rise and fall of his chest. Finally, he exhaled deeply and said, "I couldn't let her go through what I did, Mabel. Not again." I reached across the console and placed my hand on his arm. "You didn't just protect her," I whispered. "You protected the boy you used to be." He glanced at me, his eyes glistening. In that moment, I truly understood the depth of his silence over the years, those family dinners where he barely said a word, and the gatherings he always dreaded. Looking back, I remember how I had once thought I'd married into the perfect family. Ryan was a software engineer, smart, reliable, and the kind of man who always found solutions to the most complex problems. I worked as a pediatric nurse, taking care of sick kids during the day and coming home to be there for Lily at night. Together, we raised Lily, our 8-year-old daughter, who was the light of our lives. She had these big, blue eyes that always seemed to sparkle with curiosity and a smile that could brighten any room. But family gatherings at Ryan's mom's place were never simple. Ryan's mother, Mrs. Jenkins, was a wealthy businesswoman who ran a successful chain of fashion boutiques. She lived in a grand mansion on the outskirts of the city, a place with marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and a large, manicured garden. Every family event was like a high-end fashion show, with Mrs. Jenkins playing the role of the diva. She would organize these elaborate parties, inviting all the extended family members. The tables would be filled with the most expensive catering, and she would bring out fine china and crystal glasses. At first, I thought these parties were a sign of a loving, close-knit family. A family that could come together and celebrate life, right? But beneath the surface, there was always this underlying tension. Mrs. Jenkins had a favorite grandchild, Leo, the son of Ryan's sister. Leo was everything his grandmother had hoped for. He was good at sports, had a charming personality, and was even following in his grandmother's footsteps by showing an interest in the fashion business. The rest of the grandchildren were just an afterthought to her. Ryan would always give my hand a little squeeze under the table, a silent plea for me to just go along with it. He grew up in that mansion, and he knew all the unspoken rules. You could see the favoritism in the way she would give Leo expensive gifts, like designer clothes and the latest gadgets, while the other kids would get something much less significant or sometimes nothing at all. Lily was too young to notice at first. But this year, when Mrs. Jenkins sent out invitations for a special surprise for all the grandchildren, Lily was over the moon. For weeks, she came home from school talking about what it could be. "Maybe it's a diamond necklace, Mommy," she would say with excitement in her eyes. Or maybe it's a pony. I found myself caught up in her excitement, and I allowed myself to hope that this time, things would be different. Maybe Mrs. Jenkins would finally see Lily for the wonderful child she was. The day of the gathering arrived. The mansion was decorated like a winter wonderland, with silver and gold streamers hanging from the ceilings and a large Christmas tree in the corner, twinkling with lights. The smell of expensive perfume and freshly baked pastries filled the air. As we walked in, Lily was practically skipping, clutching her teddy bear tightly. "Do you think it's a magic wand, Mommy?" she asked, her eyes wide with anticipation. I forced a smile, even though I had a sinking feeling in my stomach. Ryan stood beside me, his body tense. I could feel his unease without him saying a word. He knew how quickly these so-called celebrations could turn into a nightmare. He had endured it as a child, watching other kids receive all the attention while he was left in the shadows. But we stayed because that's what you do for family. Mrs. Jenkins made a grand entrance, wearing a long, red silk dress and a diamond necklace that probably cost more than my car. She held a stack of small, black velvet boxes in her hands. Gasps filled the room, and the whisper started. "Jewelry, maybe," someone said. The other kids, especially Leo, leaned forward eagerly. Cameras were lifted, ready to capture the moment. Mrs. Jenkins opened the first box and took out a beautiful diamond pendant. She walked over to Leo and placed it around his neck. "You're my star grandson," she cooed, kissing his cheek. One by one, the other grandchildren received their gifts. There were emerald earrings, platinum bracelets, and more. Lily sat up straighter, her teddy bear pressed against her chest. Her eyes were fixed on the remaining box in Mrs. Jenkins' hand. She believed with all her heart that her turn was coming. But then it happened. Mrs. Jenkins reached the last box. She paused, looked at Lily, and then pulled her hand back as if the box was on fire. Her smile turned cold. "Oh no, not you, Lily. Maybe next time, if you're a little more well-behaved." The words cut through the air like a knife. The cameras dropped, and the room went silent. Lily's lips trembled, and her eyes filled with tears. She looked up at me and whispered, "Mommy, did I do something bad?" In that moment, I felt a rage boil inside me. I wanted to grab Lily's hand and storm out of there, but Ryan caught my arm. His voice was low and controlled. "Wait," he said. "Just wait." The rest of the room tried to carry on with the pretense of a celebration, but the atmosphere had changed. Ryan disappeared up the stairs, leaving me sitting there, holding Lily tightly. I had no idea what he was planning, but I knew that this was no longer just a family gathering. Something momentous was about to happen. I sat frozen on the couch, Lily huddled against me. The other kids were showing off their gifts, their parents forcing smiles and taking pictures. But no one dared to look at us. Lily's small fingers dug into my arm, and she hadn't said a word since that heart-breaking question. After what felt like an eternity, I heard footsteps. Ryan appeared at the top of the stairs, holding a small, wooden box. It wasn't fancy, just plain and worn at the edges. His face was expressionless, but I could feel the determination radiating from him. As he descended the stairs, the room fell silent. Even the other kids stopped playing with their gifts. Mrs. Jenkins turned, her eyes narrowing when she saw Ryan with the box. He walked straight up to her and said, "Mom, do you remember Dad's pocket watch?" She hesitated for a second. "Of course," she replied. "Why?" Ryan didn't answer right away. He placed the box on the table and opened it. Inside was a beautiful, gold pocket watch, the same one his father had worn every day until he passed away. There were gasps in the room. Lily lifted her head to see. Ryan's voice was steady, but I could hear the emotion beneath it. "Dad gave this to me before he died. He told me to give it to someone who truly understands family and who deserves it." And then he turned to Lily. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "For me?" she whispered. Ryan knelt down in front of her. "Yes, sweetheart. For you. Because you are a wonderful part of this family, and no one will ever make you feel otherwise." Tears streamed down Lily's face. My own vision blurred. The room was completely silent, and I knew that things were about to change. Mrs. Jenkins forced a smile. "Ryan, that's inappropriate. That's an heirloom, meant for someone who can appreciate its value." Ryan stood up, his voice firm. "Dad trusted me to decide, and I've made my decision. Lily deserves this more than anyone here." Mrs. Jenkins' eyes darted around the room, looking for support. "You're overreacting," she hissed. "It was just a little fun. Lily can get something next time." Lily's voice, small and broken, filled the silence. "But Grandma, why not me this time?" The adults in the room winced. Ryan's fists tightened. "Don't you dare put this on her. She's 8 years old. She shouldn't have to earn your love. She's your granddaughter, and she deserves unconditional love." Mrs. Jenkins lifted her chin, her old arrogance returning. "Don't lecture me about family, Ryan. I built this family from the ground up. I decide what traditions are." Ryan stepped closer, his voice booming. "Your so-called traditions are just cruelty in disguise. Shaming children, showing favoritism. That's not a legacy to be proud of." There was a long moment of silence. Then, Ryan's sister, Lily's aunt, stepped forward. "Mom, you went too far this time. Lily deserves to feel loved and included. One by one, the other family members started to speak up. The perfect facade that Mrs. Jenkins had built was starting to crumble. Ryan turned back to his mother. This ends now. You will never make Lily feel like she doesn't belong in this family, either here or anywhere else. Mrs. Jenkins' lips trembled, and for the first time, I saw her look small and vulnerable. She whispered, I didn't mean it like that. Ryan cut her off. Yes, you did. You've done this to me, and now you tried to do it to Lily. It stops here. Lily, holding the pocket watch tightly, looked up at Ryan. Daddy, she hurt you too. Ryan knelt down again and said, Yes, baby, she did. But I promised myself that if I ever had a child, I'd never let them go through what I did. And today, I kept that promise. The room fell into a deathly silence. Mrs. Jenkins sat in her chair, her hands shaking. Her power, built on years of control and favoritism, was finally being challenged. As we left the mansion, the sound of our footsteps echoed through the silent house. Mrs. Jenkins sat there, defeated. Outside, the cold winter air hit us, but it felt liberating. Lily clutched the pocket watch to her chest, like it was a shield. Ryan's hand found mine, and he squeezed tightly. That night, when we got home and carried Lily into her room, she stirred slightly. Daddy's watch makes me feel like a princess, she murmured. Ryan bent down and kissed her forehead. You're more than a princess, sweetie. You're loved. Downstairs, Ryan sat at the kitchen table, his head in his hands. I walked over and placed my hand on his shoulder. He looked up at me, his eyes filled with a mix of exhaustion and relief. We broke the cycle, he said softly. And I knew he was right. Lily had not only received a precious pocket watch that night, she had also received the assurance that she was loved and valued. Real love doesn't discriminate, and family is about standing up for each other when it matters most. Ryan had finally silenced the voice in his head that had told him he wasn't good enough for years.